Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're looking at a really significant piece of analysis. It's a Carter Center report from back in 2002 focused on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict.
Right, but what's fascinating and why we're digging into it today is how the insights aren't just about that conflict. They're incredibly relevant for understanding, well, almost any really tough, seemingly unsolvable dispute.
Exactly. And this report, it landed during a period of intense diplomacy, didn't it? You had the history of Camp David, Oslo,
Yeah.
and the roadmap was actually being developed around that.
Correct. So our mission here is to pull out those key lessons, the universal takeaways about peacemaking that you can apply more broadly.
Okay, let's jump in. One of the first things that jumps out is this paradox the report identified. They called it tactical hawks, strategic doves.
Yeah.
What does that actually mean?
It's this really subtle but critical distinction. It means that while people, the public, might demand tough, sort of hawkish actions right now, especially if there's violence or economic pain, underneath that, the report found there was often still this deeper, persistent desire for a peaceful, long-term solution, like a two-state outcome in this case.
Huh. So acting tough, but hoping for peace?
Kind of, yeah. But the crucial insight is how fragile that strategic hope is. It can erode, and erode fast, if people don't see a credible path towards that peaceful future actually emerging.
Right. The report mentioned, I think, that even when many Israelis thought Palestinian violence aimed at destroying Israel, polls still showed a majority of Palestinians backing a two-state solution, though maybe that was starting to fray.
Exactly. That consensus was there, but it was vulnerable, which, highlights the pressure.
Okay, so that's the internal dynamic.
Yeah.
What about the outside world? How do global players fit into this picture, according to the report?
Well, that leads us straight to what the Carter Center called the Quartet. That's the U.S., the European Union, the UN, and Russia.
Ah, the quartet, right?
Yeah, this group formed specifically to coordinate the diplomatic messages, trying to build and show an international consensus on the key issues.
So even if, say, the U.S. and Israeli officials maybe disagreed on tactics, like how exactly to roll out the roadmap?
The underlying strategic goal, like a two-state solution, often had surprising alignment among those international players. It really shows the potential power of a unified message from the outside, even when there are internal squabbles about the details.
That makes sense. But it raises a huge question, doesn't it? When is it even possible to talk? What if a situation just never feels, ready for peace talks?
Yeah, the report tackles that head-on with the concept of ripeness.
Ripeness.
Ripeness. The idea is that for meaningful negotiations to happen, a conflict usually needs what's called a mutually hurting stalemate, where both sides feel stuck, like they can't win outright, but the current situation is also painful, and crucially, they need to see a possible way out.
A stalemate plus a potential exit route.
Precisely. Parties often can't win alone, but admitting that is, well, politically very difficult. And if a conflict isn't ripe, the mediator's job might actually be to try and ripen it.
How do you do that? How do you ripen a conflict? Is that all top-level official stuff?
Oh, not at all. And this is where the report really emphasizes the role of unofficial diplomacy, sometimes called Track 2.
Track 2.
Yeah, these are often academics, former officials, NGO groups, people working behind the scenes, doing the essential groundwork. They explore options, test ideas, and crucially, help prepare the communities for the really tough compromises that leaders might eventually need to make.
Ah, so they sort of soften the ground before the politicians even step in officially.
Exactly. It helps leaders eventually deliver compromises, as the report puts it, because the ideas aren't coming completely out of the blue. People have started to grapple with them.
Which brings us to maybe the toughest takeaway. The report says solutions are rarely win-win. More often, they're lose-lose. Each side has to give up something significant. That's pretty stark, isn't it?
It is stark, and it's probably the most challenging part. Real peace, lasting peace, often means everyone feels like they've conceded something important.
And accepting that.
Oh, absolutely. That's where the real test of leadership comes in. It takes immense courage, not just for leaders to accept those lose-lose outcomes themselves, but to persuade their own people, their constituents, to accept them too. Especially when, as the report notes, there are always spoilers trying to wreck the process.
So it's about managing grievances, facing hard truths,
and fundamentally shifting the dynamic. The deep insight here is that conflicts don't always end in a neat victory. Sometimes they just change, moving from destructive violence into the realm of politics, which is still conflict, but, less lethal.
Okay, so wrapping this up, this dive into the Carter Center's analysis, looking back at the Israeli-Palestinian situation then, It really throws up these universal ideas, doesn't it?
It really does.
We've touched on that tactical hawk, strategic dove idea, the role of international consensus like the quartet, the importance of ripeness for talks, and that vital groundwork from unofficial track to diplomacy.
Yeah, a powerful framework from back in, well, published in 2003, I think it was.
So, thinking about all this, what does it mean for you, listening? If even huge geopolitical conflicts don't necessarily end, but rather transform, and if they need leaders brave enough to deliver lose-lose compromises, maybe think about the unending challenges in your own life or work. Could shifting from wanting a win-lose result towards being willing to accept mutual concessions as sort of lose-lose for a greater peace actually be the more effective path forward? Something to consider.